Ladies and gentlemen, 2020 will be for EIB a year of strong partnerships and new beginnings. In 2020, the external lending mandate of the European Union, or from the European Commission to the EIB, is coming to an end. In 2020, the Cotonou Agreement signed between the EU and almost all the African, Pacific and Caribbean states will also come to an end. 2020 will be a year for completing the EIB's Economic Resilience Initiative to step up investments in the Western Balkans and the Southern Neighborhood, the huge initiative we undertook after the peak of the migration crisis 5 years ago. In 2020, we will hit the 500 billion euro headline target for EFSI investments, European Fund for Strategic Investments, part of the so-called Juncker plan, thereby strengthening the legacy of the Juncker Commission and Jean-Claude Juncker's courageous decision to launch the investment plan for Europe. That, at that time, was not a given thing. And I must pay tribute to Jean-Claude Juncker for having taken the initiative and having gone into a risk. And I have to praise the European Parliament and the Council to have legislated accordingly, because they had to take money out of other pockets in order to be able to produce the guarantee facility that we call EFSI. The Juncker plan has built on our decades-long partnership with the European Commission in developing financial instruments, and we look forward to continuing this partnership under InvestEU and NDICI, the Instrument for Activities Outside the European Union. In 2020, we will step up considerably our support for Africa. We aim to increase our investment in the continent by at least 25%. We know that Africa's future is key to Europe's future. By the end of this century, more than 4 billion people will be living in Africa, up from today's 1.3 billion. There are opportunities in making sure they are our partners. There are risks if we don't. In 2020, we aim to strengthen our presence on the ground, helping deliver EU policy objectives outside the European Union. We will continue to focus on high-impact investments like the off-grid solar energy solutions we signed in Mozambique and Mali last year. This involves basic solar home systems that allow you to turn on the light, charge a phone, play a radio, and more advanced systems that can even manage small fridges. In countries with electrification rates of 10, maybe 30%, these are a big deal. Not to mention the fact that the people using them won't have to burn kerosene or charcoal in their homes anymore and breathe in those fumes. This is just one example. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, we invested 8.8 billion euros outside the EU, over 12% of our investments. We opened new offices in Sarajevo and Bogota, and now have more than 50 offices around the world. We are ready to increase our outside activities and local presence on the ground in 2020. This will not change the fact that we are a very lean institution. That's one of the key advantages of the European Investment Bank. We produce investments, last year, as I said, 72 billion euros, with a staff of combined EIB and EIF 4,000 people. Compare that to figures of other IFIs, you will be surprised how lean this institution is. We have active operations in 43 fragile states, the least developed countries in the world. Around 5.5 billion euros has gone to more than 100 operations in these countries over the past 10 years. You can imagine the impact these sums are having on the ground, and we will expand our activities in these fragile economies. But as the mandates I outlined above come to an end this year, we need to make sure we put in place new ways of working outside the EU. At a time of reduced EU budget resources, you can count on the EU Bank to support investments and EU policy-driven growth. In return, we rely on a sound, prudent, multi-annual financial framework to support our activities. We are great at leveraging, but there must be something we can leverage. Ladies and gentlemen, the last decade started with the largest marine oil spill in human history from the Deepwater Horizon. We've all forgotten that almost. It ended with the absolutely devastating bushfires in Australia, reminding us of the damage that climate change and environmental catastrophe can cause. It was a decade of school children having to reprimand adults. It was a decade when we woke up to the climate emergency with the Paris Agreement. We are starting this decade with the EU embarking on a European Green Deal. So it's time now to roll up our sleeves, and get down to work. We have set ourselves a huge task and ambitious objectives at the EU Group, the execution of which will require a lot of adjustments, and as we have shown in the past, we're up to the job. Thank you very much.